Thank you everyone for being here. I am Melissa Mericle. I am the Office and Finance Manager here at Dan River Basin Association. I joined DRBA about a year ago. Actually, October 1st was my first day at DRBA, so I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary. When I joined DRBA, one of the saddest things I had to answer in my interview is that I had never been on the Dan River. I've been kayaking before on flat water, but never on a river. So I made a personal goal to fix that. This presentation was born from that goal. And sorry, I had my alarm to tell me to start the recording, which I have done. So that was what that was. This presentation was born from that goal to be on the Dan River. And I have added the things that I learned before and after that trip are part of this presentation. But before I get started, let me tell you a little bit about Dan River Basin Association. This is our mission statement. The Dan River Basin Association, or DRBA for short, protects and promotes the Dan River Basin through recreation, education, and stewardship. And you may ask yourself, what is the Dan River Basin? What is the Dan River Basin? This is a map of the Dan River Basin. As you can see, it includes the Mayo River, the Smith River, the Bannister River, that all flow into the Dan River. This covers 3,300 square miles in 16 counties, 8 in Virginia, and 8 in North Carolina. The Dan River crosses the North Carolina-Virginia border 8 times. So how do we protect and promote such a vast area? We do this through recreation, education, and stewardship. We start with recreation because enjoying the outdoors links the mind, the body, and the spirit. As people enjoy the outdoors, they want to learn more about it through education. And when they learn more about the outdoors, they come to care about it more, and they want to protect it through stewardship. If I went into detail about all the wonderful things that DRBA does in these areas, it would take up my entire presentation. So I'll give you just one example of each. One important to me is recreation. We hold public events like our first Saturday outings each month. We organize a hike or a paddle of a local waterway or a trail, and we invite the public to join us and learn about that recreational asset in our area. My first FSO, short for First Saturday Outing, was a paddle on Philpott Lake. Like me, if you're new to paddling, an FSO is a great way to learn a new area. There is safety in numbers. Our next FSO, if you're interested, is a hike on the Great Blue Heron Loop Trail at the Haw River State Park. Check out our website at danriver.org for more information or to sign up, and also you can sign up for our newsletters. In education, one of our most popular programs is Trout in the Classroom. Students from all over North Carolina and Virginia participate in watching trout grow and then release them back into the water. Stewardship. We sponsor local cleanups to help keep the Dan River clean and all our area waters clean. And we also do water quality testing to ensure safe water. Before we get started, I want to share this disclaimer with you. I am not an expert. I am a beginning kayaker. I am sharing some things I've learned and hope this encourages you to learn on your own. I hope to inspire you to go out and try new things like I did when I got out on the Dan River. This presentation and the video portions of this presentation are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace instruction from a certified instructor. Before I went on my kayak trip, I did some research and I would like to share some of that with you. I've broken it down into these 4 categories. Where? Where are you going? Before you go, visit the put-in, the place that you're going to put your kayak in the water, and visit also the takeout, the place you're going to take the kayak out of. Look at the area, not only in the parking lot, but down by the river. Go down to the river, and what does the area look like from the river? Look at the maps of the river that give you information about the things you'll see along the way. How long is the stretch you plan to paddle? What is the estimated time it will take you to paddle that stretch of river? Do any bridges cross the river in the area you're paddling? Visit those bridges and see what the river looks like from those bridges. Who? The first time you paddle an area, take someone with you who has been there before and can guide you. If that's not possible, visit a local outfitter and ask them about that stretch of the river. Many outfitters will have pictures of the area and give you advice about the current conditions. Never go alone. Always take a buddy with you. Tell. Well, my husband is a pilot, and when we were flying, he would always file what's called a flight plan with someone that wasn't in the plane to tell them where we were going and when we'd be back or how long the trip would be. I'm not sure what it's called in the boating world, but I say file a paddle plan with someone in the area who is not going on the trip with you. Tell them when you expect to be back. That's very important. This way, if something happens and you don't come back, they can help you if you need it. There are a lot of safety considerations. Check with local experts about the water levels. Is the flow at a speed you can handle, or is it unsafe? You can check on the U.S. Geological Survey website for water level information. And if you don't understand the numbers, ask for help. I've looked at that. I don't understand the numbers. I've asked some of our staff to help me understand those numbers. There's also graphs you can look at. And one of the things, if you don't understand the numbers, you can look at the graphs and look for spikes. If it's a nice, gentle line and it looks like it's been that way over time, then it's probably okay. But if there's a big spike in it, then it might be too dangerous for you. There are also apps that you can look at, like river data, that are helpful. Make sure you have the right equipment. I'll cover that a little bit more in the next slide. Check the maps for dams and weirs and be sure and avoid them and know where they are. Be conscious of foot traps. If you get out of your boat, try not to put your feet on the bottom of the river. Float, because you don't know what the bottom is like and your foot might get trapped. Prepare for the weather. Check the weather service and do not go out if there's a danger of thunderstorms. Take a change of clothes in case you get wet, and wear technical clothing. That's the kind of clothing that dries quickly. Cotton is not a good idea because it does not dry quickly. Take a rain jacket with you. And I cannot say this enough. File a paddle plan. Tell someone where you're going and when you expect to be back. This was just a quick overview of safety issues. I can't cover everything. For more in-depth information, check out the safety section on the DRBA website. I'm not going to go through everything on this list because much of it is covered in the video coming up, and we show pictures of some of the items. But take a look at the list and think about carrying these items on your next trip. The most important thing on this list is a PFD, personal flotation device. Do not go on any body of water without an approved PFD. This will help save you in case of an emergency. I personally advise you to take your boat out on flat water first. This is what I did. Take it out with someone knowledgeable and learn some of the basic paddle strokes and get instruction on balance and turning before you go on a river and add the danger of moving water. Moving water has a lot of power, and you need to know the strokes and how to maneuver your boat before you get into moving water. In the video, you'll see my coworker, Brian Williams, who was my guide on the trip, show me about posture and how to do what's called a hip check. A hip check is when you keep your head, abdomen, and hips evenly aligned, and you keep your hips loose, allowing the boat to rock underneath you. There are also some great YouTube videos that can help you paddle and tell you and instruct you on the basic strokes. I'll list some of those videos I watched at the end of the video in my references section. If you're interested in learning more about kayaking or paddleboarding, Visit our 2021 Art in Nature auction. We have a kayak or paddleboard lessons for 2 up for bid. Now I'd like you to join me on my trip from the Klyce Street Landing to the North Carolina Wildlife Access on Bethlehem Church Road in Eden, North Carolina. My guide on the trip is my coworker at DRBA, Brian Williams. The address and the GPS coordinates that you see here on this slide are approximations, but they will get you close enough to find these well-marked access points if you decide to do this trip after watching the video. I'll keep the comment section open and up, and if you have a comment or question, I'll try to respond as we go along. And if we have time at the end, I'll answer any additional questions you may have then. So here we go. Give me a second to just get the video up and going. Let me know if there's any issues with it. Hi everybody, my name is Melissa Mericle. I have lived in Rockingham County for about 30 years now. We have a beautiful river that flows through our county, the Dan River. I have never been on the Dan River. I have kayaked, and I'm a beginning kayaker. I've kayaked flat water. I've done Blues Lake, I've done Philpott Lake, and a few others on my camping trips, but I have never done a river. And I am here at the North Carolina Wildlife Access on Bethlehem Church Road with my kayak. I'm waiting on some friends to come here who have been kayaking, who are expert kayakers, who are going to help me get started. And that's important. First time you go with someone you know, and someone who knows the area and knows what to do. So that is what I'm doing. So hang on, and hopefully they'll be here soon and we can get started. Hey, I just wanted to show you my kayak, my beautiful pink kayak that's on top of my car ready to go, and I can't get it down by myself, so like I said, I'm waiting for some friends to get here and help me. This is a view of the dock down there at the North Carolina Wildlife Access. I told you that was where I am. You may think that's the place I'm starting, but it's not. This is where we're going to finish. This is Brian Williams. Hi. He's my friend and co-worker who is going to help me learn the Dan River. Like I said, we're at the North Carolina Wildlife Access on Bethlehem Church Road, but this is where we're finishing the run. If you didn't know, when you kayak, you have to start at the end because you have to shuttle back and forth. You see my boat behind me on top of my car. Brian started helping me unstrap it. There's several ways you can carry a boat. I have a kayak rack on top of my Expedition. Some people have trailers like Brian. I don't know if you can see his trailer back there. There it is. There's his trailer. He was hiding it. And what we're going to do is take my boat off of my rack, put it on your trailer.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to put it on Brian's trailer, and then we're going to go to, where are we going?
We're going to the Klyce Street Access, and then when we get there, we'll put our boats in, and we'll make sure we have our keys with us for your vehicle. Then when we get down here and get out, we'll have a vehicle to take us back up. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can have a vehicle down here that can carry all the boats, or you can leave your boats down here either with someone, or you can leave your boats locked up and then go back your vehicle. But you've got to leave a vehicle at the place that you're getting out. So we usually start at the place that we're getting out to drop a vehicle off. So there's several different ways that you can shuttle, have somebody pick you up, but you always got to have you got to know where you're going. And that's what we're doing today, is learning where we're going.
And that's why I need Brian.
So we're down here at the Wildlife Access. This is where we're going to end up. And the reason we're down here actually on the ramp instead of just up in the parking lot is because we want to see what this ramp looks like from the river. Because when you're coming down the river, oftentimes you may see different things like a dock or a ramp or a cut in the bank and not know exactly where you are. So it's good to know exactly what this looks like, so when we come downstream, we're going to know exactly where to get off. Because we may not be able to see the cars from up here, but from this angle right here, I can see the dock, I can see a concrete ramp, I can see a sign up there that says no wake within 50 yards of the ramp, and I can even see the signage that says Wildlife Access up there on the road. So those are all cues that I want to look for when we come down the stream. I'm going to be looking, and this access is on the right-hand side of the river, and we call that river right. Always, when you're talking about one side or the other of the river, it's always as if you're going downstream. So even if you're going upstream, this would still be river right. So you pretend you're going downstream and say, that's river right, that's river left. So when somebody says, we're going to get out down there before the bridge, river right, that's what that means. So now we've got a good idea of what this looks like in our minds. So we know we're going to go about 2.5 miles, and that's going to take us about an hour and a half probably. But we know once we get past the confluence of the Smith, we're going to have to start looking for this ramp at some point, instead of just lollygagging around and going on downstream and missing our access. Because if you do that, it may be a long way to the next access.
For my theater friends, I like the fact that he said river right or river left, and it doesn't matter which way. It's always facing downstream, you said?
That's right. Just like stage left and stage right.
That's just like stage left and stage right. All right, got it. Hey everybody, my kayak is loaded with Brian's kayak on his trailer, and we're headed over to Klyce Street Landing. Hey everybody, we're down here at the Klyce Street Landing. If you've never been down here before, this is what it looks like down here. And there's Brian. He's taking my boat off the trailer. I don't know if you can see him doing that. There he is. Okay. I feel bad making him do all the work, but I'm doing the video. So, but anyway, up at the top of the entrance, there is a sign that says Klyce Street Landing, and there's a road that goes to the right and there's a road that goes to the left. You need to go to the right to get to the landing, and it goes kind of downhill, and then there's a nice wide open space here for you to park. What Brian's doing right now is he backed up closer to the ramp that goes down to the river, and he's taking the boats off, and then he's going to move his car out of the way in case anybody else wants to go. And I'm going to walk over here. There's a kiosk that's built. This is a brand new access that's been built by the here in the city of Eden, and you can see the kiosk behind me. Usually on the kiosk at river access points, there'll be a map that'll tell you about the river, how far to the next access point, and just give you general information and a map of the river. It's not here yet. They're still working on it. It's going to be here soon, but in case you are interested, the Dan River Basin Association has these little handy-dandy little guides that tell a lot about the Dan River, tells about all the access points and places to get, and it's got some mileage on it, distances between access points and things like that. So, you know, I work at the Dan River Basin Association, so little plug there. If you want to give me a call and get one of these little guides, let me know. All right, as you can see, I have my paddle all put together and ready to go. And there's my life vest. I'm going to get that on in just a second. I have a phone bag that I'm going to put the phone in just a minute. And then I'm going to, since I'm doing a video of this trip, I've got a couple of some off-brand sports cameras that I'm going to use. I've got some kayaking gloves, and I've got my sunscreen there, which it's kind of late in the day today. I might not be using it, but you know, it's always good to have sunscreen. And then I've got a dry bag. My keys are in my dry bag. And then I've got this handy dandy little case that goes with my kayak that I'm going to store everything in and hopefully keep it dry and safe. I've also got another little dry well up here on my kayak that I can use if I need to. And that's my kayak. One thing I forgot to mention is it's always good to have a safety whistle with you when you go on a kayak trip. And something else that's good to have is a flashlight or a strobe light in case for some reason you can't get back in time and it gets dark on you and you need something to be able to see. So those are two things that are good to have with you.
We were just talking about gear that you need on the river. You don't need everything, but there's a few essential items that you really should take. Obviously a PFD. Don't go on any body of water without a PFD. I don't care what you're doing. If you're floating on a tube or floating on a canoe or a kayak, I don't care if you can swim. If you bump your head and you go unconscious, then you can't swim. Plus, if you're in really cold water, you can get hypothermic and lose consciousness really quick. You can't swim. So PFD, most important thing you've got. We carry a lot of stuff with us, especially if we're guiding people on the river. This is a dry bag, just a typical dry bag, and We were talking about these earlier, about how to roll them up. A lot of times people just close them like that. Well, it's not a dry bag if you do that. But if you roll the top down nice and flat, then it becomes a dry bag, and you can actually float on this thing, and if it falls out of your boat, you can float on it as well. I carry a few essential items. I always have water, no matter how long the trip is. I always have some type of rain jacket. Also, no matter what the weather is, it's good for keep the wind and sun off of you, and if you get a rain shower. And I usually keep an extra shirt in here in case somebody else falls over and they need a shirt. Not everybody's going to carry all that stuff, but I do. I also carry a first aid bag, just got general first aid in it. And we also put whistles on our life jackets. So if someone gets in trouble, you can whistle and other people can stop and come help you out. So just a few things that we keep in our dry bags. I keep more in mine. I keep a pin kit and other little things because I take a lot of people on the river. But the basics that you should have is water and also a rain jacket. People just discount that, but the weather comes up unexpectedly a lot of times. So another thing that we generally always do is wear the appropriate clothing. A lot of people, you see them in the summertime, they've got a cotton shirt on, some shorts, and that's usually okay, especially when it's 90 degrees outside and the water temperature is 60, 70 degrees. But I'm always wearing technical clothing. Melissa has some technical clothing on, and what that means is it's not cotton. It wicks the moisture away from you. Plus, if you fall in and get wet, it dries out really quick. That's really important. We actually call cotton the death cloth. So if you're in cold water and you're wearing cotton and you get immersed, it takes forever to dry out. It's just going to make you colder. So it's just a good practice. Technical clothing is very cheap these days, and it'll keep you cool and comfortable in the sun and the wind and in the cold.
There's Brian. He got his canoe. He actually took his canoe down beside the steps because he didn't want to, it's too heavy for the two of us to carry down all these steps, so he didn't want to bang it on the steps. So he just kind of slid it down, and you see the track down there beside the steps that he came down, and he just slid it right into the water. And there he is with his boat. Mine's down here waiting for me to get in. Wish me luck, and hopefully I'll get some GoPro video.
Another thing to remember is shoes. Don't go barefooted. There's too much glass and nails and all kinds of sharp things out here. And don't wear flip-flops, Crocs. I've got a shop full of Crocs where they fall off people's feet. We like to wear some kind of river shoes that actually hold on your feet good. Melissa has some good river shoes on. These are Keens. That way you can step in the water, step up and down, and it's not going to fall off. Because I guarantee you, sometime on the trip, you're going to step in the water, either getting in and out of your boat or just falling out of your boat, and you're going to lose a shoe if you've got a flip-flop on. So good shoes are important as well.
Yep. My shoes are actually made by Crocs, but they're not
But they hang on there.
But they hang on. Yeah. See, they got the grip on them, and they're tight. They're not very loose like Crocs are. These are tight on my feet, so I won't lose them.
So we're out here at Klyce Street Access, and the Dan River's pretty low today. It's about 580 cubic feet per second, which is pretty low for this area of the Dan, which is fine because the water's deep enough. We're not going to run up on a bunch of rocks or logs or anything like that. So it's a good beginner level. The problem here is we've got low water right here at the access ramp, where normally the water may be up this high and we can step right in the boat. Now we've got real shallow water, so we've got to deal with getting in the boat, and we've got to deal with that problem. So Melissa's going to show us how to do it.
I'm trying to do what Brian's told me to do. My boat needs to be in the water. It cannot be on dry land, because if I sit in it when it's on dry land, how am I going to get in the water? So it's already in the water. I've got to try to get in my boat. Brian told me a couple of ways to do it, either butt first, or put one leg in first and then put my butt down. I think I'm going to try butt first. He said that was good for people with like back issues and stuff.
One of the things you can do is you can set your paddle on across the cowling there if you want to help yourself brace.
Like this,
the other
or
way,
like this?
long way.
Like this?
Yeah, crossways, so that can help you brace as you get in.
Okay.
But you always want to have your paddle with you. Don't depend on somebody else handing it to you, because the rest of your party may be gone and your paddle's still sitting up there as you're floating down the river. So always have your paddle with your boat.
And you kind of lost without it. All right, let's see what I can do now. Brian's filming, so if I fall in here and embarrass myself. Okay, butt first.
Nice, perfect. See?
Whoops.
And there's your paddle is right there. You can slide your legs in and you're golden. Excellent. Good job. Perfect. We're on the river right now. There's Melissa. She's looking good, nice and stable. Everything's doing good. And we're right here next to this giant log pile, and we call these strainers. Some people call them sweepers. I call them strainers, because if you run your boat under these logs, they will strain you out of your boat. Now, the river's not moving real fast today, but when it's moving fast, it's very important to avoid anything that's overhanging, any logs like this, bridge piling, rocks. We call all that stuff strainers because it is all a hazard. So just avoid it. Stick to the middle of the river, stick to the widest, smoothest part of the river if you're a beginner, and mainly stay away from those things. If you're gonna go toward a strainer and if the river's pushing you that way, paddle aggressively and get away from it. Don't just let the river push you into it. You need to be in control of your boat. So you always need to have that paddle in the water and always be ready to move away, especially if the water's fast. So if we're coming up on a strainer, you want to be able to move your boat, turn it away from that. And if you're having trouble, hit the brakes. That means back up, back paddle, and slow yourself down. Don't just run into these things, because these can be very deadly on fast moving water.
Brian, the water is really calm today, and you were telling me earlier about the water levels. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, this water level is about 580 CFS, which is cubic feet per second, on the gauge that's upstream at Wentworth. And normally, you know, this river can get 1,000, 2,000, even 20,000 cubic feet per second, which is way too much to be on. So you need to learn the speed of the water that you can get on. So on low water days like this, it's really nice and easy paddling, and it's fun to get to know the river when it's low. Then as you build your experience up, you can go on faster and faster flows. There is a point when the flows are beyond your ability, and you need to understand when that is, when the river's too pushy for you to be on it, because it's so fast it'll push you in these trees and underneath things, and the river will be way up high in the banks, and it's just much too dangerous for anybody to be on there. So you need to learn what those flows are, because they're different on every river. 500 CFS on the Smith River is different than 500 CFS on the Dan because the Smith's a narrower river, so that's going to be much faster water in half of this distance. So you just need to learn what those are in your area. And you can learn that from local paddlers and just learning about river speeds. They also read river flows in feet. So at 580 CFS on this river, I think that's about 2 feet on the river gauge, but it may be more than that, I'm not sure. I usually use the cubic feet per second. It's good to be able to look at the water and know that that speed is okay for you.
And where do you find out the information for how fast the river's flowing and what
So
the
you can
level
find
is?
that on the USGS website, the U.S. Geological Service. They also make apps. I have an app called River Data. It's right on my phone. It uses all the gauges. You can look on the map and it'll pinpoint exactly where you are and the closest gauge upstream and downstream from you. And even if you don't know anything about CFS, you can look at the graph and go, oh, it's straight line, it's doing pretty good. Oh, look, here comes some rain. There's a big hump in here. I probably don't need to be on the water because it's jumped up 1,000 cubic feet per second. So the information's out there. It's really good to know that. But even if you don't have a app and you don't know the USGS app, ask somebody local. Ask a local outfitter. Look online. The information is out there. Ask local paddles. There's always a local paddle person around, a paddle group, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, the river is good for beginners today, or no, you should definitely not be on the river unless you're experienced in this particular flow. And that just differs by river, so you need to know where you're going.
It's so pretty out here today. I'm so glad we got out. It's kind of hard to video and paddle with one hand, but you know, the river is moving me, even though I'm not paddling very much. But it's not moving me very fast. This is what I like. I know there's people out there who like white water and want some rough seas and stuff like that, but I just like the calm peace. And today's a good day for that, and a good day for me, who's a new person to the river. I'm not scared, I'm enjoying myself, and Brian's being a big help and giving me lots of pointers, so. Right, like Brian said earlier, you need to have visual cues as to where you are on the river, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have my first visual cue of exactly where I am. That bridge coming up ahead is the bridge that goes, it's 87, and it goes over the river, goes over the Dan River, and right beside that is the Leaksville Landing. So we're coming up on that, and if you look, there's a great big strainer right in the middle of the river, so I will try to avoid that. But at least I know where I am now. Yay!
Have you been to the Mark and seen the bateau there? The big boat? Okay, that's the boats they used to run up and down the river. That was ours. So the bateau landings is what they would do is they pile big piles of rocks out in the river, and then they would tie their boats up to them so they could spend the night like a dock, like a pier. And some of the landings they had where they could get out of the water. The Jacobs Creek, the thing we're building now, that's the Jacobs Creek bateau landing. There used to be a road down there, so they would load and offload stuff there at that landing. These were a series of rock piers where they could tie up. So there were, you know, back in the 1800s, there might be 5 or 6 boats tied up in this section of river overnight. So I'm guessing that both of these are hung up on rock weirs, and then down here you're going to see an exposed rock weir.
Yeah, Brian was just telling me right here, if you see where the water's kind of rolling up a little bit, that if I stick my paddle down, I'd feel rock. This is kind of where the old bateau landings were, and there's rock down there. And they would tie their boats to rest on the bateau landings. And some of the brushwood that we passed by.
This is
Ooh. Oh, look.
one too. You see how shallow it is right here because this is a pile of rock that is part of the old Bethlehem Landing. You can see rocks exposed on the water. So that's what they did, was pile these rocks up so they could tie their boats on and wait overnight, sleep here, offload their wares. But you can actually see the rocks. I'm standing on them. Otherwise, I'd be in 6 feet of water. So that's one of the landings, and these rocks are exposed so you can see how they piled these rocks in the river to get them up above the river level so the bateaus could come and have a place, and they would usually have poles sticking up that the bateaus could tie up to. And now, since it's been since the 1800s, the rocks are kind of falling apart, so they're not like they used to be, but they used to be pretty big square structures where you could tie up your bateau to. But it's neat that they're still in the river and we still get to see the history that's here. And that's why this is called Leakesville Landing. So this is Leakesville Landing, obviously. So, you know, we're about halfway to our destination when you hit here. And you should, you know, if you haven't seen this before, you should come down and take a look at it. A lot of people put in here at Leakesville Landing and go on down to Draper, which is about 5 miles. If you go down there, you have to portage around the dam. Most people that tube the river, they usually put in right here and then get out at the wildlife access where we're going. Because it takes about 2 hours to float, not paddling, just floating, especially at this low water, down to where we're going to get out.
Oh, okay. Well, also, right along here is a cute little trail that I didn't know about until I started working for DRBA. It's not very well publicized in Eden, and it's not very long. But it's flat. It's a nice walking trail.
So this is part of the Eden River Walk, the Eden Greenway. It just doesn't connect to the rest of the Greenway yet. The plans are to connect it. So right now it goes all the way down here and dumps out on the road where Bridge Street, where Clearwater Park is.
Right.
Let's see how to do it now. You can do it without getting it. There's a dust and hand side. Oh, that's much better.
There you go. There's an obvious bateau landing. See all those rocks right there? We just passed the Leakesville Landing Bridge. And Brian pointed that out to me.
One of the things I didn't tell you that I always tell people is when you get in the water first time you get in the water, if you'll get in there and rock your boat like this and keep your chest upright, see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
A lake or anything, just do that, and it really helps set that equilibrium, and then you're good to go. Then no matter what happens, whatever the river throws at you, you're always balanced and ready to go.
And you're looking at what Brian said, the Dan River's biggest strainer. The stone pilings. Is that, what bridge was that? I mean, what?
That's the old bridge. That's why this is called Bridge Street. Before Leaksville Bridge was over here, this was the bridge, and it was a covered bridge back in the, 1930s and 40s. And I can't remember exactly what year it burned, but once it burned down a couple of times after they rebuilt it, then they quit rebuilding it.
So this is the old covered bridge. This is the piling for the old covered bridge that gave Bridge Street its name. And we're going around it.
This is kind of neat with the flowers growing on it. But it's horrible. We need to get it all cleaned off because it's going to destroy this bridge. This can be real dangerous when the water's high. You can see why tubers come down here, can't get away from it, get hung up in it.
All right, Brian, where are we?
So we are at where the Smith River runs into the dam, and that's called the confluence of two rivers. So right here on this side we have the Smith River, comes out of Philpott Lake, and it actually comes off the Blue Ridge Mountains on one side of the mountain up there on Lover's Leap, and the Dan River comes off the other side of the mountain at Meadows of Dan, and they eventually meet back up. So you got about 70 miles of Smith River before it ever meets back up with the Dan again. You can also see the watercolor variation here. The Smith's much clearer than the Dan, and that's generally stays that way. And a lot of times this will be very much clearer than the Dan. Like right now I can see the bottom right here, and you can't see it just over there, but you can see that big mud line of the Dan River coming down. So anytime you get a smaller river coming into a bigger river like this, it's the confluence of the two rivers.
And up there, that's the Dan. That's where we just came from. Okay. And then there's like a little V right there in the water, and there's the Smith on that side, and they've joined up, and we're headed down that way. Remember, we were supposed to look for things and try to find our where we're taking out, and I just noticed I see an access point coming up that has a ramp, and there's a little dock next to it. And that looks like where we're going. That looks like the, oh great, what's it called, Brian?
The North Carolina Wildlife Access.
The North Carolina Wildlife Access. I forgot that quickly, but
On Bethlehem Church Road.
On Bethlehem Church Road, that's where we're taking out.
And you can actually see your car up there too.
Ah, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I can see some white shining through the trees, which is my Ford Expedition up there waiting for me. I'll get one more shot of Brian over there because I'm going to put my phone away because...
It's a beautiful paddle. The sun's just going down. We timed it just perfectly.
But yeah, as Brian told me, and as I kind of knew this, you're more likely to get wet when you're getting in or getting out of your boat. And getting out of my boat, I do not want to drop my phone in the water, so it's going back in my dry bag.
So there you go. You want to be perpendicular to the ramp with your boat pointed upstream so you can control it better. And then you can just slide yourself right over. It's called ferrying, where you ferry yourself right over next to the ramp. And then you can set your paddle on your boat and help brace against the boat ramp. And then you can step right out. You can throw one leg out, then throw the other leg out.
All right, hey everybody, it's Brian and I. We are in my vehicle now. We just brought our boats up from the North Carolina Wildlife Access here at Bethlehem Church Road. My boat is back on my rack. Brian's boat is tied up and cable locked, and we're gonna have to go get his vehicle and then bring it back so we can load his boat up onto his trailer. So that's what we're doing. All right, I just dropped Brian off and we're all done. And there you go, you see him heading off. And we had a great day or great afternoon on the river and had a great trip. And I had a lot of fun. And it was not as scary as I thought it was gonna be. So hope you enjoyed this little video and hope you enjoyed traveling with me. And get out on the river. But be sure, and the first time you go with someone who knows what they're doing, and it just makes the trip so much more enjoyable, and you learn a lot. So have a great day.
I had to turn my microphone back on. So that was Brian, the trip I took with Brian Williams. We had a great time. I'm going to go back. Let's see if I can get this to go back. There they are. Again, our trip details. We started at Klyce Street Landing. And then we went to the Eden, North Carolina Wildlife Access on Bethlehem Church Road. Our trip length was approximately 3 miles. It took us approximately 1.5 hours. Brian said it's on an average, you can expect to go about 30 minutes per mile, depending on the flow of the water. And here are some resources if you want to take a look at those. The basics of kayaking and current. All these are on YouTube. There was a paddling intro that I looked at and got some information on how to kayak, what beginners need to know, and then some stroke techniques. This is a series. There's a guy named Mike Aronoff with paddling.com who does a whole series on all the different paddling techniques, and they were really interesting, and I learned some things on watching those. Okay. And again, I am Melissa Mericle. I'm with the Dan River Basin Association. Please visit our website, danriver.org, and learn about our organization if you don't know already, and get out on the river and have a good time, and be sure and take someone with you. If anyone has any questions, I'm still here. I'm going to stop the recording.